So, I have a scenario here. Sally, who is your coworker, she gets off the phone with a customer. You watch her slam her phone down. Her face is red. So she gets up to walk to the break room. And as she's walking to the break room, all of these people passing by her are smiling at her. But you notice Sally doesn't smile back. You notice Sally has a straight face as she walks to the break room. So you finally catch up with her and you ask her, Sally, are you okay? And her response is, yes, I'm fine. So, given the scenario here, would you believe her words or her actions? So, this is where nonverbal communication comes in. So, what is nonverbal communication? Well, it's the way of communicating with others using actions rather than words. So, the scenario that I gave you, you believed what Sally was doing. You believed her slamming the phone down. You noticed that her face was red. You noticed that she didn't smile at anybody. So you believed her actions rather than what she was saying. And here, in an article written by Dustin Smith, Dr. Marabian's formula that he has 7% verbal, 38% vocal, and 55% visual. Now, you might be thinking that verbal and vocal mean the same thing, but they actually don't. So verbal is the sound that we hear, the speech. And then you have vocal, which is the relationship that we put with the words. So it's the meaning that we put to the words that they are speaking. And then you have 55% visual. So that can be facial expressions, that can be maybe the way you walk, maybe even the way you talk, some hand and arm gestures. So all that takes place. And as you can see here, we actually believe more on the visual side than we do in verbal or vocal. So next up, we have some functions. And I put two main functions here. I have carries meaning and I have express emotions. So I put these two because they kind of go together. So it can either emphasize or it can either contradict. And when it comes to emotions, it can either express emotions, it can either hide emotions. So next up, I have a preview here. So we're going to be going over eye contact. We're going to be going over facial expressions and some specifics in body language. So next up, we have eye contact. So I'm pretty sure all of us have been to an interview at least once. But are you a person who stares at the floor? Do you stare at the ceiling? Or do you even eyeball the interviewer here? So when it comes to eye contact, you want to keep it balanced. You want to make sure that you don't stare the interviewer down because that can become awkward. So let's go over some aspects and see what they can imply or show. So in an article written by Laura Finn, looking down at the floor or your shoes can give off a sign that you're lacking confidence or you seem nervous. So you never want to seem nervous when you're walking into an interview. And it is okay to look at the floor or maybe your shoes, but you want to make sure you keep it balanced. So you want to look at the interviewer, you want to look at the papers that she's holding, you want to look at maybe even her computer, but you do not want to stare at the floor or the interviewer through the whole interview. Next up, we have honesty. So if the interviewer asks you a question about your previous work history, or maybe even your education, and you start blinking rapidly or maybe cutting your eyes back and forth, that's going to imply that you're avoiding the truth. And since the interview process is the first impression, you don't want to seem like you're hiding something because that automatically guarantees that the job may not be yours because nobody's going to hire somebody who is avoiding the truth. So next up, we have facial expressions. So facial expressions can set the tone of the interview. So the way you walk in and the way your face looks when you first walk into an interview, well, that can kind of tell and determine how the interview process is going to go. Is it going to go great? Is it going to go probably bad? So here, we're going to touch on what some facial expressions can show and what they can apply to the interviewer. First up, we have smiling appropriately. So smiling builds that connection between you and the interviewer, and it also makes the environment feel calmer and more relaxed. So if you walk in with a smile on your face, that can automatically mean that the interview is going to go great. So you appear more friendly, you appear more eager. So that's always something that the interviewers kind of look at. So next up, we have showing enthusiasm. So smiling is the key to showing enthusiasm. So when somebody smiles, that automatically puts you in a happy mood. It puts everybody in a happy mood, actually. So the top complaint that we have here, according to Kelly Hansen, is interviewees are not showing enough enthusiasm. So the way that you can fix this is automatically throw a smile on your face. And next up, we have nodding. So nod your head when you agree with something, and nod your head when something is interesting to you. You do not want to nod through the whole interview, and you don't want to become a bobblehead either, because nobody will hire a bobblehead. So you want to nod in moderation. You don't want to nod through the whole interview, because that can imply that you're in a rush, or maybe, you're trying to get through this interview as quickly as you can. You're kind of nervous. So you don't want to give off that vibe to the interviewer. So next we're going to go over some body language specifics. And as you can see here, I've listed feelings, characteristics, and it can even tell if you are open or not. So let's go over and see what some body language can imply. First up, we have the way a person sits. So posture says a lot about you. If you slouch, that's going to send a signal that you're lacking respect. So you don't want to sit down in an interview and hang your legs off the chair, maybe even throw your arms back, kind of feel more comfortable. So you want to make sure that you sit upright in your chair and maybe even lean in a little bit so that you appear eager to answer questions. So always make sure to show respect, because that is a thing that interviewers look at when hiring people. Next, we have hand and arm gestures. Most people tend to talk with their hands, and I am guilty of that. I will sit in the drive-thru and I will be on the phone. I'll be using my hands. And the next bullet point that I want to cover here is that according to psychologists, written an article by Cameron Gregoire, he says that hand and arm gestures put emphasis on a person's thought. So if you think about it, the arm gestures that you do, it does put emphasis and it makes it kind of seem more serious. So in the interview process, if you use hand or arm gestures, you're going to seem more serious about something. Next up, we have crossing arms. So crossing your arms is the main thing that a person does when they kind of meet somebody new. So even though you are meeting somebody new in the interview process, you don't want to cross your arms, because that's going to make you seem like you're closed off, that you don't want to answer any questions. You don't want to be talking really. So make sure that you keep your arms in your lap, maybe even rest them on the armrest of the chair. So you want to be in a natural state here. You don't want to be crossing your arms, because once again, that is going to mean that you're closed. Next up, we have fidgeting around. So whether you twiddle your thumbs or maybe even juggle some change in your pocket, that's going to give off a sign that you're nervous. So you don't even want to be tapping on the counter. You want to make sure that you keep your hands in a still state. So once again, you can put them in your lap. You can even put them on the sides of the chair. As long as you keep them still and not moving rapidly through the interview process, this can guarantee that the job may be yours. And here, I want you guys to take a look at a video and see if this is correct or incorrect nonverbal communication during an interview process.
Hey, Mr. Brown, how you doing?
Hey, sir.
John Hester.
John.
Nice to meet you. Go ahead and have a seat here, Mr. Brown. everything okay? You hear okay? Okay. Well, to start things off, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
I like bowling and really like a job.
Okay. Can you tell me some things that inspire you, and elaborate a little bit on this question?
Being like inspiring music, inspiring movies. I like like inspiring like stuff. Like 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 anybody likes. I mean,
Okay.
Uh,
Are you okay?
can I have just a minute?
Sure. Go ahead.
Hey,
Mr. Brown?
I'm sorry about earlier. I'm a lot more prepared now.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and have a seat.
We can continue with the questions.
Okay, all right, well, my next question was gonna be, if you won $1 million, how
Oh, if I won $1 million.
how would you spend that money if you won it?
I mean, how would anybody spend the money? I'd buy a boat. I'm on a boat. I'd buy a monster truck. Probably some small island. I might give you some of it if you give me this job. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You know what? I think this has been great. You call me. You call me.
Will do. That job's as good as mine.
How'd the interview go?
Perfect.
So as you can see in this video, nonverbal communication during an interview plays a big role. So you can see his hands kind of tapping. You can see his eyes rolling around. You can tell that he's nervous. So the interviewer didn't really know what to think here. So all of these tips and all of the things that I've mentioned and what they can show, please take into consideration, because qualifications may land you the job, but your nonverbal communication skills can actually nail it for you.